Right, it's a Romany ride back again. This time I'm behind the camera. I'll just show you around what Millie's done in the trailer here. She's got her own style, that's for sure. She painted me trailer inside purple, but then that's up to Millie. Now, Millie came to me just before Christmas, a few weeks before Christmas, and in a bit of a state because she's suffered a load of abuse and racism, obviously because of her colour, and people treating her badly. It turns out she's been treated that way most of her life, but she won't have any of that here. And I took it upon myself to give her the chance to come here, and she keeps her horses here, and she made a nice home here. It's warm, she's got a good old yard going away there. And I'm just going to ask Millie a few questions. She's under no obligation to say anything she don't want to say. But she's an interesting person. She's a self-acclaimed horse whisperer. I wanted to put her down as a medicine woman, but she told me off about that. She said, no, I'd rather be a horse whisperer. Anyway, how are you, Millie? All right?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you, Clarence.
That's good. That's good, Millie. Now, just to give a little brief background about how you ended up here, can you just tell us what happened when you came here, or how did you find out about us here?
Well, funny enough, I have a friend of 15 years who's actually lived next door to you, Clarence, for the last 10. And she had no idea you were here until just before Christmas. She lost a dog. And in looking for the dog, ended up on Springdale Farm talking to Gavin. And when Gavin brought her round to look for the dog that they didn't find, she saw your place. And she rang me the next day on the Saturday and said, Millie, I think I found your sanctuary. She said, there's a gypsy camp next door. 10 years I've been here, didn't know they were there. And I said, what do you mean gypsy campsite? What, a few gypsies on a bit of land? And she went, no, 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 you're not listening. Gypsy campsite. They've got Vargos to rent, pitches, and mobile homes and spaces for camper vans. It's a proper campsite. So I looked it up on Facebook, couldn't believe what I was seeing, and thought, all I can do is ask. That's all I can do is ask. So I turned up on Monday morning, the following Monday morning, and asked you for that conversation, Clarence. And here we are.
That's right, Millie. You came to me and you were pleading with me to give you a chance to come.
Yeah.
And we agreed some terms about how it was going to be if you wanted to come. You initially were hell-bent on putting a tent up. Is that right?
It was, yeah. In my desperation, I would have lived in a tent.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said to you, I'm not happy about you living in a tent. Is that correct?
That's right.
So much so that I insisted you bring your daughter up. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. You were still hell-bent on having a tent. And I went away and thought about it, and I said, there's no way she can live in a tent. Not with the winters that we get up here. So I persuaded you to move into this trailer.
Yeah.
We had to do a bit to this trailer because when I bought him, he was in a bit of a state. And she's made a lovely home of it now. And I'm pleased for her. She is a bit of an hoarder. She is a bit of a chorer. If I tell her where someone is, the next minute it's gone, and I look up here, and it's up here. So she
Squirrel.
Yeah, no, we call you a chorer anyway. So all me paving blocks you've had there, bits of wood,
Yeah.
bits of pipe and all sorts she picks up.
Yeah.
Anyway, Millie, we've established now why you come here.
Yeah.
I don't want to divulge too much of your background because it's your private affair, but you basically come from a children's home, did you not?
Yeah, I was brought up in an orphanage, Dr. Bernardo's, from 67 until I got fostered at 13. And I ended up living on a Thames sailing barge with two eccentric professors. Wasn't really my idea of the ideal foster home because I wanted fields and ponies, and I got a boat on water in the middle of London. But it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I got a proper chance to actually see what a truly loving relationship was. And I'll be forever thankful for my foster parents. Sadly, I lost them within 5 months of each other back in 2006 and 2007. She died of cancer and he died of a broken heart. And I still miss them. But I know they'd be glad I'm here.
Right. I know you get a bit emotional, Millie. That's nothing wrong with that. You have said to me that you have Romany blood in you.
I do.
And that comes from your mum's side, is that right?
Yep, that's right. She comes from the Wells clan, and her mother married Bombardier Billy Wells, who was a boxer, and he was a bombardier in the army. And the Wells clan ended up settling in East London, but they go back to being the first recorded Romany clan in history in England.
Right. So that's where your love of horses must come from.
Yeah.
And tell me a bit about what you did with the horses when you were able to in the early years, Millie.
Well, I was really lucky because ever since I went into the children's home, there was a black and white telly with horses on it. That was my earliest memory, is seeing these black and white horses with cowboys and Indians. And one of the staff, by the time I was 3, so a year later, one of the staff recognised that love of horses and started taking me to a local stables where we could rent a pony for 15 pence for 15 minutes. And it took me a year and a half to learn to ride at 15 minutes a week. By the time I was 8, I was working in the stable, and it was at that point I realised that the guy that ran this stable was the top trainer of film horses for exhibitions and film stunt work. And so I grew up training horses for films, for stunts, as well as running the stables and mucking out and taking out hacks. A lot of our work was training horses not to react to bombs and guns and all sorts. Really interesting.
Right, so moving on from that, when you went into foster care, that's when you, how old were you then, Millie?
I was 13 when I got fostered.
Right, and you progressed into the horses still at that point, did you?
Yes, I'd fallen out of mainstream school because I was having a few issues, and I ended up being sent to boarding school. So I was only going back to the children's home every third weekend, and I said to my social worker, I am such an outcast, I don't want to be there. If you don't find me somewhere else to live, I'm going to run away to Newmarket and you'll never find me. Because back then I didn't realise I stuck out like a sore thumb, because every other kid in the children's home had colour. I thought everybody had colour. So she found me these eccentric professors, and I ended up going on a boat. But at boarding school there was an extraordinary lady called Mary Bassett, and she is my equine godmother from that day to this, and she saved me and gave me horses.
Right. And what did you do with her then, Millie?
Oh, everything. The first day I went to her farm, she told me she had 80. 80. Did I want to ride, jump, drive, groom, whatever, take my pick? I was in heaven, and I've been in the Bassett heaven ever since. I've been so lucky to be brought up. Both the Bassett sisters, Karen and Pippa Bassett, drive teams of 4 internationally for England, and they taught me how to break into drive when I was 13, 14, and we used to go around jumping and competing as a threesome, and I've just spent my whole life in and out of the Bassett family.
Right. Did you say that they had a special breed, an Appaloosa breed, or was it?
British Spotted Pony.
Right.
When I was 13, Mary Bassett and an elderly neighbour decided to bring back England's 10th native breed, the British Spotted Pony. It was so popular that it got sold into extinction from our country. We sold every single one abroad till we had none left ourselves except gypsies and royalty. And Mary Bassett and this old lady started to bring back, they went abroad and started bringing back the breed. The old lady died and left Mary her half, and Mary carried on for 30 years. And we now have our 10th native breed, the British Spotted Pony. And she gave me the last pony that she ever bred under her Brummels prefix. And he'll be turning up here very, very shortly.
Right.
Brummels Memo.
Right.
For the memories.
And you did a lot of exercising, horses in carts, you told me the other day. You was doing a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, when I lived in London, I couldn't be without my horses. And I found out there are 19 city farms in London, and 3 of them are licensed equestrian centres, and a few of them weren't. So I went to my local one, rearranged their horses, and started making their horses pay their way for them. By delivering the goat's milk to Harrods. We produce goat's milk in the dairy. I used to deliver that to Harrods and then collect all the fruit and veg on the way back for the goats and pigs. I used to hire out the cart to fetes for schools and churches at weekends. And any weekend I didn't have a booking, I used to just go to a council estate and just give free cart rides. Just so that one day somebody could say, I've been on horse and cart.
Right.
A girl turned up and gave me a ride when I was 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, whether I was in London or the countryside, I've always had the horses.
And in general then, Millie, from that day really to this present day, because we'll touch on it in a minute, but you've experienced a lot of racism, haven't you?
Yeah, I've experienced more racism outside the horse world than I have in it.
Right.
Although I have experienced some racism in the horse world. But most people take me for the horse person I am, not the colour of my skin.
Right.
The majority. But outside of the horse world, it's rife.
It is.
Yeah, it's disgusting and disgraceful the way some people are allowed to behave and get away with it.
Just going back to that then, when you first came here that Monday, you told me you were experiencing a lot of racism at your previous address, is that right?
Yeah, for the last 5 years, 5 years ago I lived in Axminster in Devon, East Devon, and I had a next door neighbour but one who was racist. He actually attacked me with a sledgehammer, tried to crack my skull open like an egg, and I managed to fend him off and get back into my house.
Right.
But the police wouldn't prosecute because nobody else saw him do it.
Right.
He then he actually tortured me for the whole of 2020, and the council wouldn't believe it was racist. They did nothing to help. So in the end, I fled the property and made myself homeless.
Right.
At 56, I was homeless, disabled and homeless. But I didn't want to die on the end of his sledgehammer or with a petrol bomb. Eventually, I got rehoused in West Devon in a place called Horrabridge, and I found myself surrounded by 6 racist old ladies. And in the last 2 years, I called the police twice to them for physically and verbally attacking me, and again the police wouldn't prosecute. And I said to them, have I got to be another George Floyd before somebody does something? Have I actually got to get hurt before somebody will listen that these people are being openly racist? And yeah, I'm tired of looking over my shoulder just because I'm brown, and that is one of the reasons why I jumped at the chance to come and see you on that Monday, Clarence, to just ask, could I come and put my tent up? Because I would have lived in that tent rather than keep facing that racism every day.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
You've showed me some things you made with leather,
Yeah.
bands and dog collars and all sorts of stuff. So is that something that you're going to want to share with some of maybe my campers in the future, or what are you going to do with that skill, Millie?
Definitely. When I was 13 and I met Mary Bassett, her husband was a master saddler, and Pippa went to Steuben in Germany and studied. And she taught me to cut leather and sew leather, and said, if you can do minor repairs, you'll always earn a few quid with it, Millie. And the creative side of me has took that and gone sideways with it over the years. I'm self-taught, and I'd like to be doing workshops and teaching people the skill of being able to make something really useful with leather or suede. It's a wonderful skill to have.
So to promote your skill for future now, if we got anybody out there that's listening to this YouTube presentation, if they want anything repaired,
Yep.
they can get in contact with us, and that's something you can do. Is that right, Millie?
Yes, I can do quite a few repairs. I don't do rug repairs, but if your leather needs restitching, I can help.
Right.
I can resize things. If you can't find a piece of tack to fit your horse or pony, I can resize things, and I can make things from scratch, bespoke, custom made for you.
Right, that's good, Millie. Yeah, that's very good. Now, just moving on a little bit again, you had a little bit of a good deal, you tell me, with another travelling man. You bought a black and white cob off him, did you?
I did. Well, I bought it off his granddaughter,
Right.
Steve Down.
Stevie Downs, yeah.
Stevie Downs, yeah.
Yeah, and you went to see him, is that right?
I did.
Right.
And I went to tell him about the horse situation in my life, because at the time I went to see Steve Down, my dad had died, and I knew I had a little bit of money coming, and I'd had a Hackney pony for 30 years and I lost him. From weaning to death, I had him 30 years, and I didn't have a pony to ride or look after. So I had a yard, but I knew the money was coming, and I went and asked Steve Down if he would just let me have one pony early and I'll pay him. And he said, yeah, and that's how I got my little boy. And I went and paid my debt in due course, and I'll be forever grateful for Steve.
Yeah, and you made him a belt, I believe, as well, didn't you?
I did. I made him a belt as a thank you. It was the only way I could really show my appreciation and my gratitude for what he'd done for me, by letting me have that little cob without paying,
Right.
and trusting that I would come back and pay him.
Yeah, well, that's good. So now that cob is here now.
He is.
He's out in the field with the rest of them.
Yeah.
And we'll go back to now when you first moved in, and you kept springing things on me. And one day I come in and you said, I got a confession, and I don't know what you were going to come out with, because you didn't exactly tell it all as it was. But anyway, you said to me, I got to tell you, I got a cat. And do you remember that day?
Yes, I do, Clarence.
Yeah. And tell the people exactly what I said to you.
Stop springing things on me.
Yeah. And about the dogs with the cat.
Yeah, you did say that your dogs would kill my cat.
Yeah.
But my cat is actually used to caravan life and avoiding dogs. I haven't let her out yet, but I will, and I'm going to let her take her chances, and I do believe that she will survive, along with all the feral cats you've got up here already, Clarence.
Yeah.
You've already got two.
Yeah, I got some here, yeah. And what does your family and friends, you have how many daughters do you have, Millie?
I have one daughter and two grandsons.
Right.
Yeah.
And what does everybody think about you moving up here?
They are absolutely chuffed to bits, because they know it is exactly what I wanted and needed all my life, to live in a beautiful place with lovely people, have the horses on the doorstep, and be able to sew.
Right.
I've also done a little bit of work with kids on the autistic spectrum, with a little bit of equine therapy before I moved here.
Right.
And although we haven't gone into one, at some stage I'd be interested if anybody wanted a little bit. If any of the campers wanted to come and spend time grooming the ponies and stuff with me, you'd be more than welcome.
Yeah. The other thing, Millie, I was going to touch on was, obviously you're here now, and we're hopefully, when the campers come, we will be doing lots of different things. I said for a bit of fun in the beginning that I wanted to call you the medicine lady, but you weren't too happy. You wanted to be called the horse whisperer. So tell us a bit about that, Millie.
Well, it all goes back to Brian Bowes, the man that trained the horses for films and stunts. He taught me at a very, very young age how to work with horses to get them to work with you.
Right.
And it doesn't involve beating them and disciplining them and forcing them. It involves communicating with them and explaining what you want and what you need. And so I've spent the whole of my life studying and looking and trying to learn this silent language of the horse.
Right. And that's something that you carry on with to this day, is it?
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so. I speak to my horses, my own personal horses, in sign language.
Right.
Making different signs for the commands instead of words. And I'm quite happy to teach those skills on. For instance, Louise, she'd like me to teach her how to teach her horse sign language. So I look forward to that.
Right, Millie. Well, I think that's about it for now, Millie. No doubt there'll be more videos on you to come. But I want to thank you for your time and for sharing everything with me. And I look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, Clarence.
Okay, Millie. Thank you very much.